Today we're coming to you with another episode of Self-Care Prescriptions, and today we want to talk about accountability. And so we're hoping, Dr. Robin, you can kind of break down what accountability means and how we can add a little self-care with it, and how we can just take home some accountability tips that be better at holding ourselves accountable. So help us out.
Yeah, so I think this is a really great topic for us to be talking about when it comes to self-care. I recently was talking with a group of women about self-care, and the question came up about, like, how do I hold myself accountable? And holding yourself accountable is this idea basically of how do you make sure that you follow through, or how do you set yourself up for success so that you follow through on any kind of goal that you set for yourself. So we know all of the, data around New Year's resolutions that people make them, at the beginning of the year because it feels like a fresh, clean start. But then, by the time Martin Luther King Jr. holiday rolls around, data shows that most people have abandoned whatever the new habit that they were trying to develop or their New Year's resolution. And so it's just challenging because as humans, change is one of the most challenging things for us. We are creatures of habit, and we develop our habits and they are comfortable to us. Even those habits that we know are not necessarily good or healthy for us, they're still comfortable and they're familiar, and we like familiarity. It's really hard for us to be challenged or for us to be thrown outside of that comfort zone, and that's exactly what change calls for us to do. So sometimes when we are implementing self-care, even though it's something good, because it might be counterintuitive where people are like, well, why do I have such a hard time doing something that's actually good for me? Well, the thing is that it's change, and change is uncomfortable, and you have well ingrained habits that you've been doing maybe for years on end, and so it's hard to get yourself to change. So that's why I think it's so important for us to talk about how do you hold yourself accountable, set yourself up for success when it's time to implement some type of self-care in your life.
Yeah, so that's cool. Makes a lot of sense. I think one of the biggest issues that we struggle with here, and what I'm struggling with within myself right now, is clearly defining what accountability means. So I'm the type to make my own definitions up. So instead of me doing that, kind of help me understand from your point of view what accountability means.
Yeah, accountability is just how do you set yourself up for success? How do you make sure that you follow through and kind of hold yourself responsible for following through is another word I think you can use. How do you make sure that you take full responsibility for making sure that this new self-care action gets done? Okay, so take responsibility, make sure that I know what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and how I should do it. Yeah, and make sure that it gets done. And how do you hold yourself responsible, take agency, and empower yourself to actually get it done? Because it can be easy a lot of times, when you know that something is good for you, we can be really good at lip service. Like, oh, I know I should, eat more vegetables, or I know I should eat more fruit, or I know I should have more movement in my day-to-day life, whether it's exercise. And so it can be really easy to be like, I know I should do that. And so I'm going to do that. So how many of you know that, like, Monday comes around and you're like, okay, I haven't been doing it, but when Monday comes around, I'm going to start doing it. But a lot of times when Monday comes around, we might do it for Monday, might do it for Tuesday, but we don't kind of set a plan for how we're actually going to get it done. And that's what accountability is how do you set yourself up for success so that you set all of the external circumstances that make it such that you would be most likely to follow through on the thing that you want to do.
Makes perfect sense. Come up with your plan of what you need, why you need the plan, then figure out how you're going to execute the plan and hold yourself accountable for the execution of the plan. So that makes good sense. I understand it of holding myself accountable, because I struggle with, I'm quick to hold somebody else accountable, but don't hold myself accountable. And just like you said, I'm good for doing it on Monday because it's the first of the week. It's new, and by Wednesday hit, hey, I'm on to something new. I've abandoned my accountability plan, so I'm sure others struggle like me, or maybe I'm a one of one. But hopefully what you're saying can actually help us in regards to that accountability and putting some self-care with it.
Yeah, so I want to share 6 tips, 6 or 7 tips about how to hold yourself accountable when it comes to self-care. So the first thing that I want to say is that it's so important for us to start small. So often when we want to make a change in our life, when we've identified something that could be better, that we would like to see different, we want to just like go at it 100%, just throw out everything that we've been doing and completely revamp and change our life, everything about our life. And so that, even though it's well-intentioned, it's overwhelming. So if you think about it, if I say, like, I never drink water, for example, I never drink water. Let's just say that was me. I love water, but just an example. If I just never drank water, all I drank was juices, sodas, and I went to the doctor recently. They said your kidneys look bad. You need to be drinking more water. So you need to do that. I would be setting myself up for failure if I just said, okay, I'm going to go home and just throw out all the soda, all the juice, all the everything, and all I'm going to drink is water. I'm just going to go cold turkey on all of the sugary beverages and just drink water. So you have to start small, and related to the starting small, in addition to like making sure that you're not trying to do it a big chunk at once, also picking one thing to focus on, because I think a lot of times too, people are like, well, I need to be more healthy, but then also I need to have better friendships, and also I need to get a new job. And it's like, those are a lot of different domains of self-care that you can focus on. So I always say, again, start small, choose one. So which one domain do you want to focus on? So if it's the health related one with the water, how can you start small with that? Maybe your starting small looks like 2 days out of the week for breakfast, I'm going to drink water. That's very manageable. It's very sensible. It's very small. And then what you can do is you can work your way up. But if you just try to go cold turkey and say, I'm never going to drink Coke again, I'm never going to drink a sugary beverage again, I'm just going to drink water all my life, but you've been going like the past 5 years never drinking water, it's going to be too overwhelming to your system. Not that you can't do it, but when we want to sustain a new behavior, it's best done with small incremental steps.
Gotcha. So tip number 1 is pick one. So first we're going to pick weight loss. So we're going to focus strictly on weight loss. So we got that part. Second tip, we're going to actually...
health, not weight loss, health.
All right, so you focus on your health, and in particular weight loss, right? So you're going to focus on losing some weight. Secondly, you're going to actually crawl before you walk. So you're going to take some baby steps to actually do that. So you're not going to just go cold turkey on the sugar. You're gonna gradually get off the sugar. So it could be, instead of drinking 4 Cokes a day, I'm gonna drink 2 per day. So crawling before I walk. Gotcha.
Yes, starting small.
Starting small. So we got 2 good tips going. Pick one. Next one is gonna be actually crawl before you walk. So hit me with some more, because you're giving me some good stuff here.
Yeah. So then the thing is to choose wisely. So I'm saying start small, but then choose wisely. And I think a part of that is really examining yourself, examining your life. Like I said, if you have a bunch of different areas of your life that you see change needs to be made, choose wisely. Like, why do you want, if, for example, you want to implement drinking more water into your daily regimen, why do you want that? What is that going to achieve for you in your life? How do you picture yourself different as a result of doing this? And so that's really kind of this idea that we see all the time, is kind of remembering your why and identifying your why. Like, why is this important to me? Because again, change is hard for us. We're not just intrinsically motivated to change. We're intrinsically kind of motivated to be in our comfort zone. And so if you're going to push yourself out of your comfort zone, you need to have something that you are connected to that really reminds you of, like, why am I doing this? Why is it important to me? And why do I need to have this self-care? What fulfillment is it going to give me in my life?
So my why, I want pretty skin like Charlemagne, and I want my kidneys to be all right.
Exactly. That's my why. I really care about my kidneys. Or maybe it's your kids or your family. Like, my why is, I don't like the taste of this water, but my why is deeper than that. It's because I want to be around to see my family and enjoy them, and I want to be mobile. I don't want to have any physical health limitations that limit me from getting the fullness out of life that I want.
Gotcha. So we figured a why out. Cool. What's another one?
fit it into your schedule. So a huge piece about self-care is the number one excuse is I don't have time. Right. I have work, I have family obligations, I have other social obligations. I'm too busy. I've had clients tell me from the time that I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning till the time that I go to bed at night at 10 o'clock, I'm busy. I'm running the whole time. I don't have time. The thing is, we have to make it a priority. So that's number one thing. Like, time is not going to magically show up for you. You have to be thoughtful about your schedule and then make it a priority and say that this is important to me. And if you say that this is important to me, you will find the time. And so the piece there is fit it into your schedule. So look at what your week looks like. Let's say we go back to my example of I'm going to drink only water at breakfast for 2 days a week, just to start out with. That's my starting small.
Okay.
What does your schedule look like? How can you build that in your schedule? Can you put a reminder on your phone that says, I'm going to, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, that's my day, I'm drinking water, just to remind you? How do you fit that in your schedule? Or let's use another example. If you say, I want to start taking a yoga class, I want to learn how to do yoga and implement that into my life. How can you fit that into your schedule and really put it in as an appointment? So, and treat it as seriously as you would an appointment that you had with your manager at work or your boss at work, or a girls' night out that you had that you would never miss. Treat it just as seriously as that when you put it into your schedule. And so it's non-negotiable, right? It's not something that, oh, I'll do it if I feel like it. No, it's something that's on my schedule. I committed to it. Again, before we talked about, I identify my why this is meaningful, why it's important to me. And so that will help you be able to hold yourself accountable and follow through with doing that.
Got it. So prioritize, your why, you prioritize now your time, and you say, hey, I'm gonna treat this like my job. I ain't late to work, so I ain't gonna be late on this appointment with this self-care, holding myself accountable.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Hit me with another tip.
Yes. So then the next tip is really to focus on what motivates you and identify for yourself what motivates you. We've already talked about self-care. Change is hard, even though we know it's good for us and it's going to benefit us in the long term. Sometimes it's not always enjoyable. And then secondly, it's just hard because it's not our comfort zone. It's change. It's requiring us to adapt to something new. And so then that requires you to identify what typically motivates me when I want to do something. So am I a person that is motivated by treating myself? Like, am I motivated by, for me, I know I love a nice cup of peppermint tea. So is that something that's going to motivate me? And so maybe if that's my motivator, then I will treat myself after I go to this yoga class that I committed to going to, or after I drink the water the 2 days a week, to treat myself, follow up with something that is going to be a motivator for me. Or for some people, they liked a new item that they would shop for, like a clothing item, or maybe you like some new cologne, maybe you'll buy that perfume that you've been looking for. So how can you give yourself a treat? But if that's what motivates you, so this requires you to get to know yourself and know what motivates you. For other people, it's accountability that motivates them. It's having a partner, somebody else who is going to call them, is going to text them on Tuesday at lunch and say, hey, did you drink that water this morning that you said you were going to drink? So you need to know for yourself what motivates me, like what kind of gets the fire lit under me and gets me going and makes me stay accountable. So this requires a little bit of, getting quiet with yourself and really reflecting on the past when you've made positive changes, what has been the key to your success at those times, and then using that to inform this time in your life.
Got it. So figure your motivation out. Whatever motivates you, then treat yourself after you've actually accomplished the feat that you've accomplished. Got it.
Yeah. So either treating yourself accountability, but the main thing is what motivates you, identifying that, and then implementing that into this new self-care regimen so that you can stay motivated.
Gotcha. You're giving us a lot of good tips here, and it seems like I owe you for this session because I'm getting some good stuff here. So you got any more tea you want to spill, or what we got?
Yeah, I have two more. So the next one is to check in with yourself. So I think the way that we go wrong sometimes when we're implementing something new is we'll say we're going to do something, but we don't necessarily put a time limit on it. So I would say give yourself a time that you're going to check back in. When I do work with couples, a lot of times I say, like, let's check in on the status of the relationship, like maybe once a month or once every 3 months, just to make sure we're on the same page. And the same thing goes for when you are making a change with self-care. You want to identify what you're doing and follow all the other steps we said, but then you want to come back and check in with yourself and say, how is this working for me? Like, am I sticking to this new regimen? I said I would drink water 2 times a week for breakfast only. Am I sticking with it? Am I feeling motivated? Is this still something that is meaningful to me? And so the 2 questions that I would suggest asking yourself during your check-ins, and maybe you start with the monthly check-in, is the number 1 question is, what's going well for me with regard to implementing this new change for self-care? And then the second question is, what could be better? What could I be doing better?
Gotcha. So I'm going to check in 14 days. All right, so cool. I'm checking in self. Am I drinking this water? Is it working well? Am I drinking good water, bad water? Am I doing a good job with it or not? What could I be doing better?
Yeah, what could I be doing better? And if you're not, doing what you said you were going to do, maybe you're only drinking it 1 day a week. What is getting in the way? Identifying the barrier. So that's all a part of that check-in, is really kind of being real with yourself. So this is not, tricking yourself, but being real and saying, how am I really doing with this? Does this work for me? And sometimes maybe you just need to make some modifications to the plan so that it's easier for you to stick to.
Gotcha. So I'm feeling you here. So I'm amped up, right? So I'm feeling it. I'm saying, okay, 2 weeks asking myself, what's going on? Good, bad, whatever, And now I go to one you just gave us, a why. Why is it working the way it's working? And why? Could it be working better? Could it be working worse? So I'm feeling you. I got you.
Yeah. And so then the last step, and I'm going to go back through these because I know it was a lot and people might be like lost in the sauce. So I'm going to go back after this. But the last tip then for holding yourself accountable is to be flexible. So life will happen, right? Despite our best intentions, despite all of our planning, all of us setting up the environment for success, things will happen. Okay. Like you'll be thrown off your game. Maybe one day, you can't. You said you were going to go to yoga, but you got called into a meeting at the last minute. You have to do it, or your child got sick and you couldn't go to yoga. So being flexible, things will come up. So seeing if there are any modifications that you can make. Maybe instead of going to a yoga class at a yoga studio, you can pop in, go on YouTube and look up a yoga session and do it at home. Like, is there a way that you can be flexible? So this idea of not being too rigid with ourselves, because life will happen, things will come up, but that doesn't have to stop you. And if it does stop you, if it's just that everything you plan to do just totally went out the window because this day did not go the way that you planned, that's fine too. Don't beat yourself up about it. Know that happens because you're human and this is real life. Things don't go perfectly in real life, but it's just about how do you get back on the wagon and recommit for the next time that comes around, next time that yoga class that you schedule comes around. Don't just use it as an excuse that things went wrong this one time, so I'm just going to throw in the towel and abandon that whole plan.
Got it. So we need to be flexible, but also understanding that life happens. I'm feeling it. I love all the tips. So let's summarize all the tips. Give me rapid fire and summarize the tips real quick.
Okay. Tip number 1, start small. Number 2, choose wisely. This is knowing your why. 3, work your way up. So starting with a small amount of time, maybe 2 days a week, like I gave with the water, then eventually working up to more days a week. Number 4, fit it into your schedule. Treat it just like a work appointment, non-negotiable. Number 5, what motivates you? Getting in the things that motivate you to be consistent with your changes, whether that's treating yourself after you've performed your self-care, or maybe it's accountability and having a partner. Number 6, checking in with yourself, having what I call like a state of the union. How is this self-care going for me? How am I implementing it? Maybe a month after or 2 weeks after, whatever interval you feel like is helpful, that's giving you enough time to try to implement it. And then checking in with yourself, do I need to make any modifications? And the 2 questions I gave to ask yourself doing the check-in is, what's going well? And then the second question, what could be better? And then the final 7th tip is being flexible, knowing that life will happen, thinking creatively about how you can work it in if it didn't happen in the way that maybe you planned. And even if you can't work it in creatively, always getting back on the wagon, never quitting on yourself, never giving up just because you ran into some obstacles, because life happens, but realizing you're doing the best that you can and you always have tomorrow to try again.
I'm feeling it. 7 powerful steps to holding yourself more accountable with a twist and a touch of self-care. I'm feeling it. Anything else you want to leave us with before we get out of here?
I think that's it. I think I said a lot today, but I hope that this resonates with a lot of people. I would love to hear your tips for how you hold yourself accountable. I know people are out there doing amazing things in their lives and implementing self-care is in the air these days. And I know people are doing great things. And I just love to hear of the tips. What was your favorite? Or maybe do you have any additional tips that really helped you hold yourself accountable with self-care?
All right, so here's one for you, Doctor. So it's November, first of the month. What are you holding yourself accountable for during the month of November?
During the month of November, I am holding myself accountable to doing some reading for pleasure every week.
All right, so weekly pleasurable reading. There we go. So let's check in 14 days from now and see how that reading's working out for you.
Sure.
And all the listeners and people who follow us, drop a comment below. Let us know what you're holding yourself accountable for, and let us know if these 7 tips work for you, or maybe you have some tips you want to share. So hit us up and stay connected with us. And until next time, take care.
Bye.
Thank you for taking better care of you and for listening to another episode of Self-Care Prescriptions. Stay connected and tuned up with Dr. Robin Gobin. Visit robingobin.com or follow us on all platforms at Dr. Robin Gobin. Stay healthy and stay balanced with Self-Care Prescriptions.